Greenland, a vast island of ice, rock, and silence. Remote, isolated, often ignored. But today, Greenland is no longer just frozen land at the edge of the world. It has become a pressure point, one that could test the strength of NATO, strain U.S. alliances, and reshape power in the Arctic. Because what's happening here isn't just about territory, it's about who controls security in a rapidly changing world, and whether alliances still matter when strategic interests collide. Greenland occupies a position no other place on Earth can replace. It sits directly between North America and Europe, along the shortest routes for aircraft, missiles, and surveillance systems. During the Cold War, this made Greenland essential, and today it makes it indispensable. At the center of its strategic value is the Pitufik Space Base, formerly Thule Air Base. From here, the United States tracks ballistic missiles, monitors space activity, and feeds data into early warning defense systems. If a missile were ever launched across the Arctic toward North America, this base would be among the first to detect it. But Greenland's importance goes far beyond radar and runways. As Arctic ice melts, new shipping routes are opening. Beneath the ground lie rare earth minerals, oil, and gas, resources critical for modern weapons, technology, and energy security. Whoever holds influence over Greenland holds leverage over the Arctic's future. The United States has operated in Greenland for decades, but always through agreements, not ownership. That approach has recently begun to shift. Washington now views the Arctic as a front line. Russia has expanded its Arctic military bases. China calls itself a near-Arctic state and is investing heavily in polar infrastructure. From the American perspective, losing influence in the Arctic means losing strategic ground in the 21st century. This has driven a more aggressive posture toward Greenland, not just militarily, but politically and economically. Tensions escalated when economic pressure was applied against European allies who opposed U.S. ambitions over Greenland. For many in Europe, this crossed a line. Disagreements between allies are not new, but using trade pressure over territorial influence is rare. And it raised a dangerous question. How far can strategic necessity push even the closest allies apart? Greenland's answer was immediate. Greenland is not for sale. Despite its small population, Greenland has its own elected government, its own identity, and its own future to decide. Denmark backed this position fully. As Greenland's sovereign partner within the Kingdom of Denmark, Copenhagen reaffirmed that Greenland's defense falls under NATO, not unilateral control by any single power. Denmark increased Arctic patrols. NATO allies joined exercises. Signals were sent, calmly but firmly. Because this dispute wasn't only about Greenland, it was about whether sovereignty still matters inside an alliance built on trust. This is where the situation becomes critical. NATO is built on one promise: an attack on one is an attack on all. But what happens when pressure comes from within the alliance itself? European officials warned openly that any attempt to force control over Greenland would shatter NATO's credibility. Not because of Greenland alone, but because it would prove that power outweighs partnership. Others urged restraint, arguing that rhetoric does not equal action and that NATO has survived crises before. But alliances rarely collapse overnight. They weaken slowly through mistrust, unresolved disputes, and the erosion of shared rules. Greenland has exposed how fragile unity can become when security interests collide. Zoom out, and Greenland is only one piece of a larger picture. Russia has reopened Cold War-era Arctic bases. China is expanding polar research, shipping, and influence. The Arctic is no longer frozen geopolitically. It's becoming one of the world's most contested regions. For the United States, the Arctic represents future security. For Europe, it represents sovereignty and stability. And for Greenland, it represents the challenge of standing between giants without being pulled apart. Greenland remains silent, but the forces surrounding it are anything but. What happens here will echo far beyond the Arctic Circle, into NATO's future, global security, and the balance of power itself. Will cooperation hold, or will strategic ambition rewrite old alliances? One island, one alliance, one moment that could shape the century ahead. This is Greenland at the center of power.